Kim Stevens is going to, oh, Kim's got his screen up already. He's way ahead of the game. So I will, I'm just going to introduce Kim briefly and let him away. So Kim Stevens is an engineer and planner who specializes in public policy and professional development and has played a leadership role in a series of initiatives in British Columbia related to water sustainability, watershed health, rainwater management, and green infrastructure. Kim is the executive director at Partnership for Water Sustainability and has been responsible for delivering the Water Sustainability Action Plan for British Columbia since 2004. So Kim, if you're ready to go, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Brent. And yes, I'm ready to go. And, you know, my title really describes the mission of the Partnership for Water Sustainability. You know, reconnect people, fish, land, and water. It's the whole system approach, and really echoes what Michael was saying, because everything is connected. And in terms of, you know, my presentation today, Ananda Fitzsimmons posed this question for me to address. She said, or asked, how are you building the vision in terms of how you bring stakeholders together to take the actions that achieve the outcomes? Well, I'll start by saying that the partnership is a non-profit society, but it's much more than that. It's the hub for a convening for action network in the local government setting. Now, by setting, I mean both the government and stream stewardship sectors. One of our objectives is to draw attention to the power of local government collaboration with the stream stewardship sector.
Sorry to interrupt, Kim.
Yeah.
Would you be able to just turn your camera on so we can see you as you're speaking?
All right. Tell me where to do it.
So it's just beside the mute button at the bottom of your screen. You'll see
start
or
video?
stop. Exactly.
Right. Sorry about that. I didn't see that.
No problem. Okay, nice to see you.
Right. I was kind of wondering about that thing. So yeah, so kind of picking up the thread of my line of thinking here is that the center of our world is government, and this reflects really our genesis, and that is what makes us unique. That the partnership is closely connected to government, but it is not part of government. So in practical terms, what that means is, and I'll try and get out of the sunlight. It's a very bright day in British Columbia today, but we cannot complain about the sun, can we? What that really, when I say that not part of government, what it means is that a change in provincial government, for example, cannot shut us down. That's kind of our mantra. They cannot shut us down, because that's what traditionally happens when you have even with a successful program. Governments change, programs are eliminated. And so one of our initiatives is the Georgia Basin Interregional Education Initiative, or the acronym IREI, and 5 regional districts in the southwest corner of British Columbia, which represent 3/4 of British Columbia's population. They're partners in this initiative. And so the IREI is a mechanism for local governments to work across boundaries. And really the objective is so that they can share and learn from each other. And you know, that's how you make things happen, because people network and they talk. Next, I'll just give you a bit of the history. In the 1990s, a group of like-minded and passionate individuals, including representatives of 3 levels of government, came together as a technical committee. And over time, this technical committee, or Water Roundtable, evolved into the partnership, you know, capital T, capital P. And we incorporated it as a society in 2010. So the umbrella for partnership initiatives and programs is the Water Sustainability Action Plan for British Columbia. And in turn, the action plan is nested within Living Water Smart, British Columbia's water plan. Now, released in 2008, Living Water Smart was the provincial government's call to action. And to this day, it transcends governments. And that is a significant accomplishment, transcending governments. So the action plan itself is an example of the shared responsibility model in action. So there are 2 aspects to this. The action plan is an umbrella for bottom-up actions, and those on-the-ground actions inform provincial policy. And that was quite significant in 2001. We had a change in government, and the premier of the time, Gordon Campbell, that was one of his guiding principles. So
Kim, sorry to interrupt you again. We're just wondering, are you changing slides, or we're still on the first slide?
I'm still on the first slide. I'm taking the time to answer the question by Ananda.
Please take your time. I'm so sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So the action plan really was the prototype for Living Water Smart. And so in the early years of the rollout, we served as an outreach arm in order to leverage collaboration. So our guiding philosophy is to help our partners be successful, because when they're successful, we're successful. And so the partnership is led by a team of mission-focused volunteers, elders, and collaborators. And so these individuals, they bring the experience, the knowledge, and the wisdom to the table. So this is what enhances the effectiveness of the partnership as the hub for a network. I'm going to emphasize the hub for a network. So although many of the partnership leadership team have retired from their day jobs, the water-centric mission goes on. And now I'll try and change that slide. There you go. The unifying theme for my presentation is time. Time in the intergenerational sense. So I want to read this quote to you, and I want you to think about the words. A vision without a task is but a dream. A task without a vision is but drudgery. A vision with a task is the hope of the world. Think about it. So in terms of our new reality, again, I want you to read the words while I tell you a story. And my keynote presentation at a national conference in Australia in 2016 really put things in context for me, because, you know, our climate has changed. I've seen that as a water resources engineer over the last 20 to 30 years, just the changes that have taken place. So, you know, we now talk about floods and droughts, you know, longer, drier summers and warmer winters. So when I was going to Australia, it was in the context of they had these multi-year droughts, 7 years at a time. And I thought, well, when we talk in terms of, did we have a 3-month drought, a 4-month drought, a 5-month drought? You know, that doesn't sound very impressive. But then I realized once I got down there that the difference is in British Columbia, we basically have no time, no flexibility to adjust during a drought, because you cannot make the management decisions in time. And that's what happened to us in 2015 in terms of when we had really the first of 5 years in a row of, you know, the new reality. And so for us, yes, it rains all the time, but we're storage limited. So when our reservoirs are empty, there is no more water. And I had one interview on CBC at that time, and I said, well, what do we do? He said, well, there is nothing we can do. We only have so much left. We have to ration it. That's the bottom line. But I just want to emphasize that the did you know statement there about, you know, success in restoring the water balance in altered landscapes. And I think this ties in with Michael's theme, which is really comes down to reconnecting people with the land, and on a technical side, as well as reconnecting hydrology and stream ecology in the built environment, because we have disconnected the two through our actions over time. Soil. Well, I guess it was about 20 years ago that we realized that that soil really is the cornerstone of water sustainability. And, you know, because restoring the balance to the water balance, it starts with soil. And at the time we said, if we cannot communicate this message, this simple message, if we cannot get people to wrap their minds around the significance of soil, all the other language, all the highfalutin stuff, what does it really mean? Because in terms of soil being the absorbent sponge and being, you know, the tool for dry weather and wet weather, if you want to use the phrase sustainability of water supply or sustainability of aquatic habitat, it all comes back to how you manage water. And so, you know, if you have soil, you're going to use less water to irrigate during dry weather. And if you have a soil depth, there's going to be less runoff when it rains, and you're going to have less flashiness in your creek systems, and you're going to have more base flow during dry weather. It's really that simple. So in terms of the vision, The big question is, how do we pull this off? And I want to just give you 4 dots that I'd like you to think about and connect in your own ways. The 4 are instant gratification, quarterly report, career, and intergenerational. If you string those together, you have a time continuum. And I guess what we've seen is that the instant gratification and quarterly reports, well, those are the examples of the worst kind of short-term thinking. And that is what we have to replace with a career perspective, which then leads you to begin to think in terms of intergenerationally, because it basically takes you a career to figure stuff out. And then we have to pass that understanding and that wisdom on to the next generation. So if we can do that, and we can think long-term in terms of 50, 100 or more years, then we can put the balance back into the water balance. And a takeaway here is that decisions made today, well, they ripple through time. Oops. Mission possible. The phrase regional team, regional approach has been around for years, 50 years, my entire career. And what we discovered by accident some years ago was that if we inserted the word team in between regional and approach, it changed everything. It changes the context, it makes it personal, there's a coachable context. So, but at the end of the day, it does come down to the right people in the right place at the right time and over time. And when the stars are aligned, it can result in pure magic. That's really the experience that I've had in my life on numerous occasions. Cathedral Thinking. I urge you to check out the website cathedralthinking.com, which was created by a fellow named Rick Cantinson, the former Tourism Vancouver guy. And, think about what these words mean in terms of a far-reaching vision, a well-thought-out blueprint, and a shared commitment to long-term implementation. And the reason it's called cathedral thinking, when you think about our ancestors 1,000 years ago, and you think about Notre Dame a few years ago when it burned down, it's kind of a reminder that the builders of those great cathedrals in medieval times, they had to think in terms of multiple generations carrying out their work, because they knew when they started, they would never see it finished. And all those workers, for 200 years, 8 generations, it was the same thing. But they had the vision, they had the blueprint, and they were committed. So in terms of, bring it back to where we are today and creating the legacy, and I think this kind of echoes Michael, which is, giving the right language, which is, we want to create a legacy. Yes, it's water need, it's water use, and stream flow in balance with a changing water cycle. And you cannot make people change their attitudes or behavior. The best you can do is influence choices. And so it's all a question about how do you influence choices? And in so many ways, you're really depending on the teachable or the reachable moments. When people's minds are open to an idea, if they hear Michael's presentation and they go, aha, and then they do something different. So really, it's using that term of sustainability, in our case, water sustainability. It's the lens for considering approaches that influence choices. And so I would tie it back to Michael by, why the Partnership for Sustainability has embraced blue ecology and has championed Michael's work, is that, it's a interweaving, it's a different way of looking at things, because at the end of the day, the decisions that we make today, they do ripple through time for good or bad. And the thought I'm going to leave you with in terms of this intergenerational frame of reference when I talk about the time continuum, which is, it's not a sprint. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. And that's the significance of the intergenerational way of thinking, the cathedral thinking, the vision and a task. As Bill Derry said 2 years ago, political and economic cycles, swings come and go, right? But you just got to keep on keeping on. And that's it. I'm finished.